Hey, man, what'd you do over the weekend?
Oh, just saw my football team put the world on notice.
Want to talk about it?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Happy Tuesday and welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Woo! I love it. Absolutely.
I've been
love it.
So excited for this show since Saturday
Juiced
night.
up. Absolutely juiced up.
I've gone back and watched the highlights of that game more times than I would like to admit.
I mean, as you should.
As I should and as I enjoyed. And, buddy.
We got a lot. We got a lot to get into. Guys, I'm Anthony Totri, joined as always by Erik Ruby. And we've got DJ Coop behind the Mac making all of the magic happen. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. We have a ton to get into today. We're obviously going to be talking about Sam Leavitt and the ASU quarterback performance on Saturday. The Sun Devils with a 41-point victory over the Wyoming Cowboys. We are going to take a look at what Kenny Dillingham had to say at his Monday press conference. Some interesting stuff, both on the field and off the field. And then, Erik, we're just going to pull back the curtain just a tad. We're going to take a look at Mississippi State and see what they have cooking as they head to Tempe for that week 2 matchup.
Traitor on the roster.
They do. They absolutely do. Are you ready? Are you juiced? You ready to rumble?
Let me check.
All of the things?
Let me check. Yeah.
You let me know when you're ready.
Wait, I got to do one thing first. I didn't do it.
You do one thing first.
Cool.
There it is.
All right, let's do it.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Again, guys, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Erik, we saw it on Saturday night. Sam Leavitt was, I mean, again, nearly flawless. The expectations, I think, going into that game, I think we can both say that we set them lower than maybe what we should have at that time. And he came out impressed through the air, on the ground, his poise, his pocket presence, really everything, his command of the offense. It's tough to go back and watch that game and try and pick out flaws of what Sam Leavitt did.
Yeah, I mean, I could do a couple, but
you could.
Let's stick positive here. I think we set expectations for the whole team rather low. I think that was just more out of caution. The same way with Sam Leavitt. I think what we did was kind of balance what was maybe expected as far as redshirt freshman quarterback, lots of new weapons, lots of new defensive players as well. Not a lot of continuity overall. Almost expecting just some time to get it all together. But then we would add, hey, but there's also like this best case scenario where they just go out there and they just rip. And that's what Sam Leavitt did. He looked in complete control. He did not look like a redshirt freshman quarterback. He looked like somebody who'd been playing for ASU for years. He was moving, he was throwing, he was running. The only thing that he could maybe do is like slide. Just slide a little bit.
Please, I beg you, this week, slide against an SEC defense. Do that. Danny in the chat, if I didn't live so far away, I would go this week. BC with tons of forks up. Sharon, we are undefeated, guys. Look, normally we'll have Victory Mondays. This is a Victory Tuesday. Cade in the chat, Kenny's press conference after practice today got me fired up. Dude is changing the culture in Tempe. We're done with the undisciplined Sun Devils we've gotten so used to for watching over the years.
And I think that comes into play with Sam Leavitt. What was the main thing that Kenny said is like, don't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
Right? And
he didn't.
There wasn't even moments where like, yeah, he had some overthrows. Glenn says only flaws. He needs more touch on passes, but that can improve. Absolutely. Yeah. I think everything that you could point at and say, hey, that's what you need to improve on. It's not like, hey, you need to have some raw skill and ability develop out of nowhere. No, you need to slide. You need to rein in your arm power, which I would much rather have that problem than you throwing ducks, right?
Or an inability to even get it as far as he can.
Sure. And there were a couple plays where there was open guys and he wasn't making the technically the correct read, but there were still so many other plays where he was making decisions on the fly and moving around and just delivering it where it needed to be delivered. I think that with Sam and with Cade's point about Kenny and what everything showed on Saturday was none of this is just talk.
Yeah.
You know, the attention to detail, the work ethic, the expectations, the competition in every room, you know, this is very real.
Yeah.
And Sam Leavitt is now a very real threat. And I get it. Like some people are going to say, well, it's Wyoming. But my counter to that is redshirt freshman with an offense that he's never played in a game with before goes out against a huge crowd and absolutely delivers how you should deliver against an inferior opponent.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Let's take a look at some of the numbers for Sam Leavitt from Saturday's win over Wyoming, completing 64% of his passes, 258 through the air, 47 on the ground, and then 2 passing touchdowns. Obviously, those rush yards, little skewed simply because of the sack numbers. You lose yardage on that as opposed to what kind of happens in the NFL.
Yeah.
But overall, I think this is a kid that, again, we have to understand he's a kid. He's a redshirt freshman quarterback. This kid did not look like a redshirt freshman quarterback. And I mean that in a number of ways. You can talk about the arm talent. For me, it was his pocket presence and his ability to feel pressure without necessarily panicking, right? It's one thing, and there was a play that I tweeted today just in terms of the touchdown pass that he had to Shimon Matire. And it was a play action. He rolls a tad. There's pressure coming from the left side, steps up in the pocket, keeps his eyes downfield, understands that he doesn't need to force anything. Mm-hmm. Maybe something's not open downfield, and just delivers it to the check down, and Shimon makes a play. I think you're going to see a lot of that as he continues to develop and grow in this offense, is an understanding that, like people are saying in the chat, you've got a guy like Jordan Tyson. You've got Shimon Matire. You've got a running back in Scat in really a stable of guys. You've got Melquan Stovall, Jake Smith. Like the list kind of goes on of talented guys that you can trust are going to be able to make a play. It's just going to be up to Sam to A, make sure that he doesn't turn it over, and B, find a way to get it into their hands. And I'm not saying you need to go just absolutely give Jordan Tyson 15 targets a game because he's Jordan Tyson. You need to understand the game plan and really just fixate on being able to march downfield and take your shots when you can. And I think, again, he is only going to get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're only going to play better opponents too.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, you're going up against an SEC team this week. We could talk about that, and we could talk about the line, and we could get a look at them, which we're going to do later in this episode. You're not playing Wyoming this week.
Yeah.
And you know what? The line's the same. Right? Like you're going up against a team that's from the SEC and now you're expected to win. And expectations will continue to shift for this team, continue to shift for Sam Leavitt as they continue to win and improve. And to your point about making the right decision and marching downfield, I thought he did that just wonderfully.
He did.
In game one. Everybody got a little bit of love. Everybody from X to Melquan to Jake Smith to Jordan Tyson, Shimon as well. Like, so many people touched the ball. Every running back basically got to eat as well. And then he also ate on the ground too.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that could be any more well spread out than what it was. Because I know a lot of people were giving Arizona crap for Fafita targeting T-Mac basically every single time.
I mean, yeah.
Now, granted, you put the best wide receiver in the country in single coverage, like, you know, there's not really much you could do about that. But I think there's also a point to having an offense with so many different weapons to keep a defense guessing, and they don't know really where you're going to go. And if you take away a Jordan Tyson, you still feel comfortable with 2 to 3 other receivers, right?
Yeah.
Scat, for some reasons, not having a great game, or you want a different look. You've got 2 to 3 other running backs that you can confidently put in there. And so with Sam, to be able to balance those things, while it is a challenge, it's also kind of a blessing, because you don't have to have laser focus on Jordan Tyson because you can't even look to the right side of the field because you know there's nobody reliable over there. but you also just need a quarterback who makes his reads. And I don't think there was a single moment in Saturday, and you can correct me if you felt differently, where I felt like Leavitt was out of control and not making at least multiple reads on plays where he needed to.
Yeah, I don't think there was ever a moment, and Kenny addressed it kind of in his press conference on Monday, where things that you would like to correct, in one being the sack that he took at the end of the first half. Obviously, that makes a field goal attempt at the end of the half a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah.
In that scenario, just throw it away and live to have another down, But you look at the Arizona State offense as a whole, and Sam Leavitt obviously leading it. They had 10 offensive drives through that game, only 2 punts the entire game, which is absolutely phenomenal. They scored touchdowns on 4 drives. They scored field goals on 2, and then 2 field goal attempts as well. Obviously, the 2 field goal misses, you hate to see that, but that doesn't fall on Leavitt. That falls on the special teams, right? So overall, you look at this Arizona State offense as a whole, commanded by a redshirt freshman quarterback in Sam Leavitt. 60% of their drives ended with a score.
Were the punts when Leavitt was in? Or was that fourth quarter?
There was a punt at the very end of the game. So yes, that was Sims.
So 1 punt.
And then there was a punt in the third quarter as well, that I believe Leavitt was still in the game. So if you really want to...
1 punt.
So 1 punt. You could put 1 on that.
Don't care who you're playing. Like, you only punt once with your redshirt freshman quarterback, wide receivers who hadn't played in over a year, and just very little continuity everywhere except for, even the offensive line, you had positions move and shift around.
Yeah.
And the running back room, everybody besides DeCarlos and Cam, knew as well, like as far as being in the game plan consistently, like Kyson Brown was. That it's not too good to be true, because we saw the signs of this and all the positive momentum, but it's so nice to see it translate on the field.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm really excited to see what Leavitt does as far as controlling that type of game against an SEC team, because there is going to be a game where you're probably going to have to rely on one person more. Right? There's going to be defenses.
Adversity.
There's going to be defenses that are able to hone in better than a Wyoming defense is. Right? You're going to be on the road for certain ones as well. Like, not this week, but you're going to hit the road eventually.
And the following week, you have a short week, and then you're going up against a Texas State team that a lot of people have them in Boise State kind of going back and forth as who's going to get the group of 5 spot in the college football playoffs.
Not an easy win. There's a lot of adversity up ahead for this team, but I feel calm and confident. Not the fact that they're going to go undefeated this season, but the fact that I don't think I'm ever going to be looking at my TV and scratching my head and being like, what is this team doing?
No, you're right. And I do want to get to BC's comment in the chat, because this is something that we've kind of discussed off the show. I believe I brought it up on a Sun Devil Spaces with Ralph. BC says if they beat Mississippi State, they have a shot of being 4-0 when ranked Kansas comes to town. Well, let's walk through it for a second, right? Arizona State obviously sits at 1-0 after a massive 40-plus point win over Wyoming. Now you are back at home against an SEC team in Mississippi State that, yes, had a very dominant week 1, but a lot of people don't really know what Mississippi State is going to be this year. It's going to be a true test this week. The Sun Devils are able to take care of business. You've got a 2-0 start against a decent Wyoming team, right? At least a team that a lot of people thought was going to be decent when they're 100% healthy. And then you got your first SEC win in program history. Then you got a short week, first road game of the year against Texas State, a team that a lot of people consider a solid to good team. You take care of business there, you're 3-0. And I said in the office today, you're getting votes in the AP. You're getting votes in the AP. You may not be in the door, but it's creaking. It's creaking. And then the best part about it is if you're able to take care of business, which it is going to be tougher than people think to beat Texas State on the road, then you have 9 whole days. 9 whole days before you take on your first Big 12 team in Texas Tech, which definitely go check out our Big 12 power rankings a little bit later on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Texas Tech had a very, very ugly performance against ACU, giving up 51 points, I think.
For those who don't know what ACU is, it's Abilene Christian University.
So there's a shot where you're going in 4-0. And if you beat Texas Tech, you're in the AP. Doors open. I don't care. Then you've got time before Kansas comes to town.
Especially if you win those games rather convincingly as well. If you can go out against an SEC team and cover the spread, and then you go to Texas State and you put a stamp on that on the short week, and then you take a break and you come back, your first Big 12 opponent, It's a team that a lot of people have as an underrated team in the Big 12.
Yeah.
I'm not there. And obviously after Abilene Christian University put up a 50 spot on them, I think a lot of other people are also not there.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be some rollover team. They're not the Houston.
Nobody
Exactly. They're not a BYU. They're not even a Cincinnati.
Houston is in their own category of bad.
Sure. And so I'm absolutely just like, I've been juiced. I've been excited. I've been excited about Leavitt, but it's different when you can point to on-field success and now your takeaways aren't just conjecture. They're what did I see and how can that translate? And if that continues over the next 3 to 4 weeks, you are looking at a ranked team.
Yeah.
Right? Listen, if they go against Kansas and they've lost one game, but it's a close game and all the other ones are dominant, like you are still being looked at completely different.
I think it depends how that game goes.
Yeah.
If it's a close game and you're 3-0 or 4-0 up until that Kansas game, then I think there's still a shot where you're getting votes. But again, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, kind of going back to what we saw from quarterback Sam Leavitt in Saturday's big win, this is something that you wanted to discuss kind of after the game that we didn't really get to on the post-game show. Is just, I guess, Kenny Dillingham's experience with quarterbacks in the past and what he has kind of done. And it's ironic, right? Florida State playing last night, and you see DJ Uiagalelei and Mike Norvell kind of struggling to put together an offense. And Jordan Travis obviously was a quarterback at Florida State last year. Kenny Dillingham, and this is to Jordan Travis's point, played a massive part in his career turnaround. And then we've obviously got the cream of the crop in Bo Nix, who is, if I'm not mistaken, is set to start on Sunday in his very first NFL game. First round pick. His career got revitalized at Oregon, also a Kenny Dillingham product. And now we've got Sam Leavitt here at Arizona State. And you saw immediately what he could do game one as a starter. Like, do you feel after one game, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but do you feel after one game that you can at least see him getting on that same track of quarterback?
He already is on that track. Again, you're taking somebody who hadn't played a meaningful snap of college football, and in game one, we're talking about a nearly flawless performance, right? And the flaws that were there were all kind of on more him than Kenny, and not in a bad way, right? But like Kenny, I'm sure has told him he needs to rein in his power, but you can't technically do that for him. You can teach him how to slide and tell him how to slide, but he needs to have that go through his head, right? But this is somebody who, it's a credit to him how comfortable he looked, for sure. But it's a massive credit to Kenny. It's a massive credit to Marcus Arroyo and this whole offense as well. And listen, this is a pattern now. This is not some one-off thing, right? This isn't like somehow Kenny Dillingham has walked his way into a couple quarterbacks that end up being a lot better after he coaches them, right? This is legitimate. And to be honest with you, like, I know we're talking about Sam right now, but we expect Kenny to be the coach of this team for a really long time.
Yeah.
There will be quarterbacks after Sam Leavitt. Michael Tolfson is now going to be playing in Arizona.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so that's
class of 2025 quarterback.
Topic for a different show. But if I'm a quarterback and I'm up and coming and Kenny Dillingham sits in my living room and now ASU has record success to go along with what he's saying of, hey, look at all these quarterbacks I've worked with. I have no doubt in my mind that if you give Kenny Dillingham a successful program, which he's building, the infrastructure and the facilities that you need at ASU, you will get a 5-star quarterback at some point because they are going to want to look how these quarterbacks looked under Kenny.
You don't need a 5-star quarterback.
You don't need one, but you will get one. You will get one.
Yeah.
Because this is the type of guy that if you look at the track record, let's say Sam Leavitt does end up being a Sunday guy, right? Like, I know that a lot of people joked about the Sims and Leavitt thing, but like from what Leavitt showed us in one game, right?
Against Wyoming.
If you can expand that over the next couple of seasons consistently, you are talking about somebody who might get picked in the NFL draft, right? If he reins in and fixes his flaws and continues to play like this, he has every intangible that you need to be an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? If he ends up being an NFL quarterback, at least making it, getting drafted, that is such a feather in Kenny's cap.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Kenny's already got a bunch of feathers in his cap.
But that's what I'm saying. Add another one as a head coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This type of stuff will snowball. And I think Kenny knows that. And I don't remember who said it in the chat, but somebody talking about like our culture being established and Kenny kind of changing everything. It's real, and we've been saying it's real. And Totri, this is going to last as long as he's here. And it should only get better.
And you just got to build off it, right? You can't get complacent being 1-0. Kenny obviously talked about it after practice today, just being like, the effort and the energy didn't feel right. Right.
Sure.
Like you get complacent, you won one game, right? You don't sign up and work the entire season to win one game. There's a lot left for this team to do and accomplish. And he said it in yesterday's press conference, like he wants to see this team get hit in the mouth. He wants to see their linebackers get trucked. He wants to see the offensive line under pressure. Like he wants to see how these guys, like how resilient they can be.
Yeah.
And you will get that. You will likely see your first taste of it this week against an SEC opponent in Mississippi State. It's only a matter of time before you really see what this team is. And I'm not saying that this team isn't a team that can't go out and win consistent 40-point games. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is Wyoming is Wyoming, and Kenny said it yesterday. That's a team that ASU should have beat,
sure,
and they beat. The only difference in this conversation this year versus years past is Arizona State likes to play with its food in years past, and sometimes they get caught.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get caught. This is a team that didn't look past its opponent, that knew exactly what it needed to do, and when it was time to step on the throat, they stepped on the throat.
Yeah. And again, I think a big reason why everybody's super excited is because it is week 1 and there is that room for potential. And the reason why I'm comfortable is because I know Kenny won't get comfortable. And let's hear what Kenny had to say, and we'll do that right after this break. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time. It was Game Time on Saturday. And if you want to make it out to an ASU game this season, you, of course, want to get your tickets through Game Time. And they have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Listen, that stadium was pretty full.
It was packed
on Saturday. You're going to want to get tickets, and you want to get them soon, and you can do that through Game Time. They have a curation that makes it easier to save more on sports, but also concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you really need. I use Game Time to get to get a concert ticket recently, and the only reason I was able to afford it is because of our friends over at Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Some terms do apply, but again, create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
Game time.
Kyle, what time is it?
Game time.
I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. I also love our friends over at Sanderson Ford. I've told you over the course of the last couple weeks just about my experience for the weekend driving a 2024 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend. And the reason I'm telling you consistently is because I think about it every single day. Okay, this is like the thing in my life that I don't have that I really want. It is such a nice car, and I see them all over town now, and I get it. I get why people want to be in this car, why they want to drive it. It is comfy. It's got all the bells and whistles. You don't even need to go in there and add it. The interior is absolutely beautiful. The exterior speaks for itself. But maybe you don't want that car, but you're in the market for one. Sanderson Ford has a ton of options for you. And one thing that you can guarantee when you go to Sanderson Ford is that somebody is going to take their time with you. Okay. It's like the football team. You can't microwave success. You have to actually cook a 5-course meal, and they're going to help you do it over at Sanderson Ford. Okay, guys, shop the Sanderson Ford playoff payoff sale with no hassle, no pressure, and no nonsense. They're giving you big payoffs like 0% financing with just added huge Labor Day sell-a-thon rebates of up to $3,400. Finance offers for 36 months OAC through Ford Motor Credit, up to $3,400 in rebates on the F-150 XLT, and get 0% for 36 months OAC from Ford Credit. See dealer for details. Erik, we obviously have spent a lot of time talking about Sam Leavitt, and we are going to continue to do that as long as he plays like this. But let's go ahead. Let's take a look at what his head coach, Kenny Dillingham, had to say about his performance and really the offensive game plan as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you'd always love to be balanced. I don't know if it was about Sam. I think Sam he's a high learner. So, yeah, even though he's a freshman in there, I don't think we tailored the plan to say, hey, let's protect him. You know, we threw the first time we had an open field. I mean, we had the ball in the plus 38, which you can't really take too many types of shots. But the first time we had an opportunity to throw it deep with him, in the second possession, we chucked it deep, and he threw a great ball. So we're not playing scared with him, moral of the story. Like, we're going to be aggressive with him. The flow of the game really didn't dictate that we had to throw the ball downfield a lot. But the plan was to throw the ball downfield a lot. Just the flow of the game is going to control what you actually call. And I think Coach Royo called a great game just playing with the flow. I didn't think we were going to be able to run the ball at that high of a percentage.
I mean, first off, and we said it on the post-game show, Marcus Arroyo put together a phenomenal gameplay, and that's, you know, credit to Arroyo and really the offensive staff as a whole. But it was executed pretty flawlessly from Leavitt, from the running backs, the offensive line, the wide receivers. Everybody did a phenomenal job. But it's interesting to hear a team that we thought was going to go into this season and run the rock just time and time and time again. Not that they didn't, but that it's not so much that they are going to handcuff themselves to their running back success. They trust Sam Leavitt. Don't get it twisted. Sam Leavitt is the guy at Arizona State, and Arizona State's entire playbook is going to be up for usage if they want it to be. There is not going to be a let's wait and see what Sam does game 1, game 2.
Sure.
They evidently feel very confident in his ability to go out there and execute a game plan from the jump.
The big thing he said was, we're not playing scared.
Yeah.
And, you know, not credit to us. I'll say discredit to us for
Credit to us. We did it.
For maybe thinking that they would not do that.
Yeah, no, hand up. Hand up.
Again, and you know what? I think where we were coming from was based in reality. And I don't think it was more of a comment on this coaching staff or Sam in general. More of a comment on just how football usually goes. But they bucked that trend, and we talk about sports in general. It's a lot of the times it's a confidence game. Somebody goes through a slump in baseball, it's a confidence game. Somebody goes through a shooting slump in basketball, it's a confidence game, right? Same thing in football. Same thing with your quarterback especially. But to be a redshirt freshman on a new team with new personnel all around you, and your coach being like, hey, you're really freaking good, man. We are not just going to let you dip your toe in the water. We're going to push you in the pool. Swim.
Time to swim, kid.
And he was like, okay. Like that.
He didn't even say okay. Homie got on the diving board and swan dove into that thing.
Exactly. And you know what, man? Like, it's a credit to the staff. It's a credit to him. And I think that's why it was so beautiful when you heard them talk about when Arroyo and Kenny first met Sam. It was like a 6-7 hour meeting.
Yeah.
Right. And
God, that juices me up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, when you find people that can operate on the same frequency as you, and we've talked to Kenny, you've talked to Marcus, football freaks.
Yeah.
Okay. Football
like legit,
freaks.
legit. And I mean this in the most like complimentary way possible. These guys are football nerds.
Yeah.
Like, you can ask Kenny, and we've got a soundbite that we will play here in just a little bit, where Kenny is asked about the Mississippi State defense, and homie just breaks down the schematics of the entire defense, like, without really answering the like, if a TV reporter is asking you a question about a team's defense, they're doing it to try and get a fluffy 15 to 20 second answer that normal people can understand.
Not
Kenny Dillingham. Kenny Dillingham is telling you about the schematics, the formations, what they were running in years past. Like, that's what you want, not just from a head coach, but from your offensive coordinator.
Sure.
And now you got it at quarterback.
Yeah, like Arroyo matches Kenny's frequency. And then Sam does as well.
Marcus matches Kenny's freak. You could say it.
I was setting you up for it. No, like, you know, I think it's funny to your point about, you know, you ask a question kind of asking for maybe just a more basic answer. I remember when we had Kenny in here, I asked one of those questions that I felt like would maybe get a more basic answer. I mean, I love when he goes in the deep football stuff, but this, I forget what question it was, but this specific question in my mind did not lead into that.
Yeah.
And the dude just ended up
talking
for 2 minutes.
He just
for 2 minutes about a specific play type and how the different intricacies of it. And I'm like, dude, like, and like, that's, like you said, that's exactly what you want. And you want somebody who could have a quarterback that they can look at and that you can trust with that as well. And knowing that he can handle it, knowing that you can throw him into the fire, but you know, it's a balance because it's also not throwing somebody into a fire if you prepare them well.
Yeah.
Right? And he was very obviously prepared well. This defense, I know we're talking a lot about the offense and Sam, this defense was obviously prepared well. This offense was prepared well. They both looked like well-oiled machines. Off the first play, the bat for either side of the ball. And that is a testament to every single coach, to every single player development person, training staff, whatever. But the head of that umbrella is Kenny Dillingham.
Yeah.
He is the person who puts all of this together. And he even said in his press conference before the Wyoming game that he is more involved on both sides of the ball than he was
ever before.
last year.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that that is a direct correlation to why this team was clean, did not have massive amounts of penalties, and just looked like the better, more well-coached team, then you're just not paying attention.
Well, we can go ahead and look, we're going to get back on track, but you want to give the defense flowers, let's give them flowers. This was the fourth best defense in the country this past weekend.
Say that again.
The fourth best defense in the country.
I don't care who you were playing. I genuinely don't. Because a lot of people were playing some cupcakes.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people were playing bottom of the barrel and they weren't doing nothing against them. I don't know. Some teams let New Mexico put up 39 points against them. Some teams put up a 50 spot from ACU on their defense.
Get your umbrella. It's raining shots.
Like, listen, man, I don't care who you play. You end up there with the expectations that were put on this team. Like, it is truly incredible. And it is a testament. Listen, it's a testament to the players, but to come off the bat that well-oiled and that put together is a massive green flag when it comes to who is on your coaching staff.
I said that this defense would be what?
One of the best in the Big 12.
I said it'd be top 4 in the 12, right?
Yeah. Your bold prediction was that they'd be number 1.
It would be the number one defense.
There's no Big 12
My
defense.
bold prediction was number 1 defense in the country with 8 wins.
And above them is Missouri, Louisville, and East Carolina.
The East Carolina Pirates,
Of course. I mean, we all know.
And Missouri's a top 15 program right now.
Yeah. And listen, there's no other Big 12 team that's up there, right? And again,
there's not another Big 12 team until you get to Kansas State and then Utah, then UCF. And again, it just kind of goes to show, as we're reading this off, that there are some defenses in this conference that go along with some pretty phenomenal offenses. And look, we've given credit to the offense. We've given credit to the defense. One thing that I do want to give some serious credit to is the fans. The fans that not only tune into this show on a daily basis, that watch the post-game show. We really do appreciate you. Again, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Seeing a lot of new faces in the chat, which I absolutely love. Not only today, but also on Saturday. But also a massive shout out to the fan base that showed up and the students that showed up on Saturday. It was an absolutely incredible performance from them. And Kenny talked about it just the other day, just how much of an impact that has on this team, especially when you're able to kick off and you defer and that team starts on their 25 and they have that student section absolutely roaring behind them. But last Saturday wasn't where it ends. Kenny said that you guys need to continue this going into Saturday's game.
100%. I mean, I think it's really cool. I think Arizona State has over 40,000 new students this year. I believe 17,000 of those people are true freshmen, right? And I think it was a record 9,000, something like that, a record for in-state student enrollment at Arizona State. So I think all of those things and the excitement with Graham and the athletic department, what they're doing to hype up is a huge advantage for our guys. When our guys run down the kickoff, and we defer and we get to run down to that student section and they have to start on their own 25-yard line and that student section is roaring, right? It's an unbelievable feeling, and that's the challenge for our guys, for the students, is you're a part of this and we want to break the record. I want to have more students that's ever been in a game. I want you guys to be a part of the first time Arizona State's ever won an SEC game. Come be a part of history, right? Let's pack it out. From the fans to the students to everything, and let's make this the best environment in college football this week.
How many times, just in sports, in leadership, in business, do you hear empty quotes and empty promises?
A lot.
A lot. One thing that is not empty is Kenny Dillingham's promise to do everything in his power to literally activate the Valley.
I believe that if you cut open Kenny Dillingham, half of him would be maroon and the other half would be gold.
Yeah.
That's just who he is through and through. And I've seen people in the chat talking about Arizona fans think that he's this program's Jed Fish. He might be this program's Jed Fish in the eyes that he's going to turn this ship around. And you can already start to see it going that way. But I'll tell you what, this guy's not leaving because Washington calls. No. This guy's not leaving because Alabama calls. He was born and raised here in the Valley. This guy is the youngest head coach in college football. He wants to be here, and he wants this place to be a perennial powerhouse, and he is not leaving until that job is finished. And even when that job is finished, I believe that he's going to have 10 toes in the dirt in Tempe for a long time.
Because once you build them up, it's like, why would you want to go anywhere else?
Yeah.
Right? Again, this is somebody who doesn't just bleed maroon and gold, but has bled it. It's not like he got here and now he's bought in. No. He has been a Sun Devil. He understands the history. And let's also not get something twisted here. The fan support and the people who are showering love and positivity on Kenny because of the results are a big reason why he will eventually decide to stay here when these other schools will. This is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yeah, no, it's a win.
Other schools come knocking.
Yeah.
Right? Listen, your coordinators are probably going to get snagged up. Right? Like Brian Ward at some point will be.
Don't say that.
He will be a head coach in college football.
That.
He's that good. He's that good. Okay? Listen. Somebody's going to come knocking on Kenny Dillingham's door.
It's going to be me.
You?
Stay.
Stop.
Sit. Stay.
No.
Good boy.
My previous job, I worked in the radio, and
I came knocking.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
He told me to stay, and I told him, no, you have to deal with me, bud. Kenny came on right after he got hired, and credit to the person who asked this, but they put him on the spot, and they said, 3, 4, 5 years from now, you have success at ASU and your dream job comes knocking. You know, this next step up comes knocking. What are you going to do? And without missing a beat, he goes, well, I already have my dream job.
Yeah.
He's like, why would I want to go anywhere?
Yeah.
And this is coming off of all of just the pile of poop that ASU football was thrown in when he took this over.
Yeah.
And think about where we are today. He's going to, and already has, turn this around. And Ray Fram says in the chat, I can see Kenny Dillingham in the ASU sideline for 20 to 30 years. I am being so serious when I say I don't think that's an exaggeration.
No, I don't think it is. As long as this program continues to go in the right direction, I have zero question that will be the truth. And Cade's saying we're going to send him edible arrangements every day if we have to. That's the type of love and fans that this program has, right? Cade's not the only one. Everybody in the chat, you're not the only one. But sometimes you got to dig, and sometimes there's definitely groups out there of people that are like, "Hey, results need to come. Sure. Results need to come before we actually show the support." And guess what? Your team just won by 41 points.
Should have been 48.
Kicked the blank out of the Wyoming Cowboys. And now you got a chance to go do something that's never been done in program history. So not only do the fans need to show up, not only do the players need to kind of replicate what they did, but you got to refocus, right? I said it last year a lot, and I said it in a different context of losing, right? Sports are a thing where, yes, momentum exists, but you can never get too high and you can never get too low. You got to celebrate for the 24 hours. You got to lock in, you got to refocus, and you get back to neutral. And Kenny Dillingham was asked just the other day how he is going to get his players to do that. This was his answer.
Yeah, we've never beaten an SEC school. Or SEC, we've never won an SEC game. I think that's one. So we have a chance to do something that the school's never done. And I think anytime you can do that. Two, regardless of, the same people who are talking about how we played really well are the same people that picked us dead last. Three, you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you are, right? So get off your high horse. And success in our program is being the very best at whatever you're currently doing all the time. Like, let's go be successful again this week. And that's the message. That's the vision. And this is a really good football team we're about to play. Coach Levy's one of the best offensive minds in college football. He brought over a special teams coordinator from New Mexico State. That guy was a part of the best season New Mexico State's had in a long time. They brought over a defensive coordinator who was trained by Nick Saban. And even though he's never called defense, he's from that pedigree. So when you're talking Levy, who's from the Lane Kiffin offensive tree, a defense coordinator who's from the defensive tree of Nick Saban, and you're talking a guy who was just at New Mexico State as their other coordinator, you're talking a really well-coached football team in year one that just won by 60 points. And I don't care who they play. You beat the Kenny Dillinghams of Scottsdale, Arizona by 60 points, right? That's impressive. And we got a tough team against us.
Most interesting man in the world. You just ask him like a simple question and he starts listing off every coordinator and whatnot. But it's real. I mean, listen, there was a reason why in the offseason when you ask Kenny, do you show your team? Do you know that your team sees all this national hate and all of this disrespect and this lack of belief? And he goes, yeah, because I think he knew. He knew that they were going to be better than people expected, but you want to sow those seeds of like, I'm going to prove you wrong. The best programs do it. Literally, Georgia. Like, I swear Kirby Smart makes fake newspaper headlines and puts them up in the locker room and says they don't believe in you, right? They don't believe that you can go out and beat TCU by 80, okay? Like, I genuinely...
Still raining shots over here.
I genuinely feel like this is the perfect guy to handle any sort of team like this. Whether you're a good team, whether you're a bad team, he's always going to keep you on that straight and narrow, right? And listen, you beat Mississippi State this week. You're 2-0. How many weeks are in the season, Anthony Totri?
12.
That's a lot more weeks than 2-0.
Well, look, and again, we're getting ahead of ourselves, which welcome to the PHNX Sun Devils show.
Heyo.
But you start 2-0. I mean, you could even forget 2-0. Right now, as Arizona State stands today,
Sure.
September 3rd, they have a third of the wins that they had last year. Through a full college football season.
I think I've found my champagne somewhere.
Through a full college football season, this team had 3 wins.
Did they have a double-digit win last year?
I'll
look that up. I'll look that up.
I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if there was a game where they scored. There wasn't a game. There wasn't a game where they scored 48 points. I'll tell you that much right now. Like, this team is building, it's growing, but I love the idea and the mentality of Kenny Dillingham, a dude who has been in college football for some time, despite being the youngest head coach in college football. He's been placed as a quarterback's coach, as an OC, and understanding that you have to get back to neutral, right? That you can win by 41 points.
Right.
That's good and well. You save that for the end of the year, and we can go back at the end of the year and be like, hey, remember when we beat Wyoming this badly? We could celebrate then. You don't play college football to go 1-0. You play college football to go to the college football playoff.
Last year, UCLA 17-7, Glenn in the chat saying that, and then also Washington State 38-27. I believe 38 was their season high in points. Yeah,
probably.
38 was their season high in points. Again, listen, a win's a win, but a 24-21 win over Southern Utah is a lot different than a 48 to should have been 0 win
don't even
over Wyoming. Okay. Like, again, you're talking, there are games where Arizona State put up 3 points against Utah, 7 points against Washington, 15 points against Oklahoma State, 0 points against Fresno State.
Gross.
Even in your double-digit win, it was over sleepwalking UCLA 17-7, right? 13 points against Oregon. This team has something that they can truly build off of and look at for momentum and going up against, listen, there's a stark difference in the level of talent on just defenses between Wyoming and Mississippi State.
Love that. You, dude. Love that. That
Don't
was
you
awesome.
worry about that.
If you know, you know. That was absolutely awesome. Look, going and facing an SEC team is obviously not an easy feat. There's a reason why Arizona State has never been able to beat an SEC program, mind you, while they are in the SEC.
Sure.
Okay. In a large part is because of the size of some of these players, the talent of some of these players. And really, what you can hang your hat on in the SEC is you're going to show up for 4 quarters, and I don't care who you're playing, they're going to play defense. Because that's what they do. They thrive on being able to beat you up the same way that Utah did in the Pac-12 for so long. It's not because they had high-flying offenses. It's because their defense was absolutely suffocating, and they were dominant game in, game out, season in, season out. And now you've got Mississippi State coming to town, and we'll get into the offense here in a second. But the defense, again, is something that all eyes are going to be on because Arizona State offensively, Sam Leavitt, still a redshirt freshman. You don't magically become a super senior after playing 1 football game. This offense is going to have a test in front of it, and that is the Mississippi State defense. Kenny Dillingham commented on that Bulldog defense just the other day.
Yeah, so obviously all year we prepared for odd weak side overhang / 4 down in the offseason because that's the Nick Saban simulated pressures is really popular in that tree. Right, so we were prepared for that. We heard some D linemen went out, so we're like, okay, that fits the odd weak overhang world. They got a lot of linebackers, so this makes sense. And then they come out in their odd 5 techniques, 3 high safety, which is the only thing that coaching tree hasn't been in, which is like, okay, well, we've checked every box but the one thing that they don't or haven't done in over 10 years, and now they show up and do it. to me, I'm not going to get carried away in the one game of film. I know the identity of the coordinators, where they come from. And if you can be an odd 5 technique team and move a linebacker down to defensive end, right, when you're in 4 down, then you can easily be an odd 4-eye team and make that same linebacker a weak side overhang. So we face so much 4 down in practice with our defense, and our defense blitzes more than, green grass, that we don't need to see much 4 down. So we just have to prep for odd weak overhang, odd 3-high safety, mix in some 4 down looks, but we've been seeing that for a while, 4-2-5 defense. So we've got to really prepare for the odd 3-high safety, the odd weak overhang, and I think that's what the majority of what we're going to see.
And that's just schematically kind of what Arizona State is going to face. And again, you ask Kenny a question about the defense, and he goes way too deep into it, which I absolutely love, especially because we could break that down a little bit, right? But again, we had comments in the chat from 454 Kasul. Mississippi State offensive line and defensive line are huge. And just because we're talking about the defense, here are just some size, okay, of this Bulldogs defense that you're going to face. 6'3", 280.
Okay.
6'3", 290. 6'5", 285. 6'4", 290. 6'4", 310. 6'4", 310. 6'3", 270. 6'2", 305. Mind you, that's a freshman at 305 pounds. 6'4", 240. 6'2", 315. 6'4", 295. 6'4", 310. 6'4", 285. 6'3", 300. You have some big boys, okay, in this SEC on this Mississippi State defensive line. All eyes are on the offense for Arizona State. Absolutely. You want to zoom in? All eyes are on that Arizona State offensive line. A group that performed really, really well against Wyoming, and now you have a test. Now you have a test of, hey, you can be technically sound, but I'm going to put 300-pound grown men on the line, and their sole purpose is to throw you around. Can you stop them? Now, in the interior of this offensive line for Arizona State, Leafatanu, Ben Coleman, Cade Briggs, comfy, absolutely comfy with those guys up front in the interior of this offensive line. They've done it. They've proven it. Go to the exterior. Max on the right side, and then on the left side, whether it be Josh Atkins, who played well against again, a Wyoming defensive line, or Emmett Boley, whoever's going to be playing left tackle there, that is where you are going to see a big difference in this game. Can Arizona State not only cover the 6.5 points, can Arizona State win this game? That is entirely, in my estimation, and this is, again, a jump because it's a game. There's a lot of players involved, but a big part of this game is, can Josh Atkins and can Max on the right side, can they protect their quarterback, and can they create running lanes for Cam Scattaboo or whoever else is going to be in that backfield?
Yeah, and even if they do it most of the time, there's just no way you're going to be able to completely suffocate them the whole game. So if you are a Cam, if you are a Sam Leavitt, or you're anybody else in the backfield and you get hit by one of them, how are you going to respond?
Yeah.
You're going to be like, ooh, that was too much, which I don't think that's how it's going to happen. But listen, you're going to get hit.
Yeah.
And you get hit a lot harder than you did against Wyoming. It's the same reason why even in their secondary is bigger as well, right? You want to slide, right? If you're Sam Leavitt, you don't want to risk it against some big bodies like that. Listen, it's a complete step up, right? There's not really much else you could say about just the pure size and athleticism as far as the difference between Wyoming and Mississippi State, as it's a step up.
Yeah.
You're going from Wyoming to an SEC team. Granted, not the best SEC team.
Nowhere near the best SEC.
Still an SEC team.
Still an SEC team.
And that in its own right makes it more difficult.
It absolutely does. So do you want to talk about Mississippi State? Do you want to get into the Bulldogs?
Yeah, but I think we should take a little break
Yeah,
first.
we'll take just a little break. So definitely stick around. But first, want to tell you a little bit about our friends over at Circle K. Obviously, the sponsor here, Studio K, presented by Circle K. I don't know about you, Erik. They had a deal last week. You could save 40 cents per gallon.
I'm a big dummy.
You're a big dummy?
I was really busy with work and I forgot to
my
go.
goodness.
And then I had to fill up on gas this weekend. But you know what's great about Circle K?
They're going to help you save money regardless.
Yeah, I
you
can still save money, right?
can.
I couldn't save 40 cents off per gallon, but I still got my daily discount.
Well, I'm not a big dummy. I saved a lot of money on gas. Shout out Circle K.
Can't all be winners like Anthony Totri.
Also, pull back the curtain a little bit here. I'm eating some Circle K snacks down here as those clips are going. That way you're not getting too much ASMR in there. But Circle K, they've got deals, they've got snacks, they've got drinks. They have it all. And they've got a ton of locations where you guys can go. I'm sure there's one just around the corner from you. But join Inner Circle. It is their free membership program where you can save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. And then every day after that, you guys can save 3 cents per gallon as well. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading that Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details.
And, we got a comment earlier in the chat talking about how we are not wearing our sunglasses today. I do think that's weird. I think we got to keep that vibe going.
The sunglasses vibe?
Yeah, especially because they're Shady Rays, and there's nothing like wearing a good pair of Shady Rays.
True. The sunglasses pick the day, though. It's not.
It's fair.
People get confused. They think that we pick the sunglasses. No. It's like the sunglasses look at us.
The sunglasses talk to me like the Green Goblin, man.
Exactly. I was just about to say it. It's what it is. They call me a coward when I leave them on the desk.
And you know what they say to me? They say Shady Rays has been an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people, and I just can't deny it. I have to put them on my own face, especially because they are the style that I like and the colors that I like. I like a nice, simple, all-black pair of sunglasses. Simple guy, but if you want something a little bit more out there, maybe some more team colors, you can do that. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to ShadyRays.com. Use code PHNX for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
I love it. Absolutely love it. So do you want to get into what Mississippi State did in their season opening game?
No.
You don't want to?
Just kidding. Let's do it.
Well, Mississippi State, they are also 1-0, just in case you didn't know. And they absolutely dominated Eastern Kentucky 56-7. It was an absolute domination, really, from the offense. I will say again, 56 points is a boatload. I don't care who you are playing. I believe it was 8 total touchdowns. Their quarterback, 15 of 20, 247 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air. Blake Shapen.
I'm sorry, who?
Blake Shapen.
Why does that name sound so familiar?
Go ahead.
Traitor alert. Revenge game alert. Shapen was once committed to playing football and baseball for none other than Arizona State University.
I wonder if Willie Bloomquist is going to go out to this game.
I think Willie's going to play.
You think? Oh, you think? We're putting him at edge?
He's going to be off the edge.
Okay.
He's going to get to him.
That'll be tough. That'll be tough.
That'll be tough.
I'm not entirely too concerned with Shapen and really what this offense does. He is a senior quarterback, but you kind of look to what this kid has done over the past, in years past. It's nothing that blows your mind. Again, he's been at Baylor before Mississippi State. This is his first year playing for the Bulldogs. Last year played at Baylor through 13 touchdowns, 3 INTs. The year before played at Baylor, 16 touchdowns, 10 INTs. His freshman season in 2021, 5 touchdowns, no picks. But overall, this isn't a kid that really goes out there and wins football games. He's a game manager of sorts, sure. Right? And again, I think you see that even in his numbers. This is a kid that isn't going to win you a football game. He's not going to necessarily lose you a football game as well. But you kind of go to the defensive side of the ball. And this is a team in Mississippi State that's similar to Wyoming in game 1. They've got their own injury stuff that they're dealing with as well. Sophomore defensive lineman Calvin Dinkins. He left. That's not a real person. Well, you can go up to Calvin Dinkins, SEC defensive lineman, and tell him that he's not a real person.
Hi, Calvin.
You might even a little lower probably too. He left Saturday's game after an injury in the second quarter, did not return. And then 2 starters as well for Mississippi State. Wide receiver Kelly Akahari and then safety Corey Ellington. They both missed that first game with injuries, while Memphis defensive back transfer Diago Broomfield and then Travion White also did not dress due to injuries sustained in preseason camp. Again, you don't want to see anybody get hurt. You want to see people get as healthy as possible. But the status of each of those guys appears to be in doubt against Arizona State, which would be massive for Arizona State, especially when you're talking about that that Mississippi State defensive line missing a key piece in Calvin Dinkins, and then at wide receiver Kelly Akahari. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I hope it is. He would have been and is set to be a big weapon for Mississippi State this season whenever he does return. So if he's gone, that definitely helps out the secondary.
I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but I don't think that's how you pronounce it.
Well, we're giving it a shot. At least I'm trying, man.
Some incredible names.
At least I'm trying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not. No, listen. And we're going to get more into the actual nitty gritty with Mississippi State throughout the week. Obviously, anytime you go against a team that's missing some of their better defenders and some key pieces, Wyoming was missing some pieces on both sides of the ball. You know, that definitely played a factor into week one.
Not a 41-point factor, though.
No. And that's kind of the thing at the end of the day, like this, like we said, is an SEC team. They have depth. You know, they still cannot be overlooked. ASU will not be overlooking them. But you might be put in a position where you don't have an advantage per se, but you're not going up against the absolute strongest. Now, I think if they had to choose, they would want to go up against the strongest. But if we're just looking at what's the easiest way to get to 2-0, or maybe the most certified way to get to 2-0, unfortunately, your opponent not being fully healthy is one of those things.
Yeah,
right.
No, you're absolutely
right. It played into
right.
why ASU lost a lot of games last year.
That's
right?
absolutely
so
right.
It can swing the other way. But I can't go any longer without not saying the name Diago Broomfield. Are you kidding me?
It's a great name.
That's a wizard.
It's an absolutely
That
phenomenal name.
that is the Harry Potter sequel.
We got Bees in the chat, Danny in the chat. Danny asking, is MSU pass heavy or run heavy? It is really tough to kind of evaluate that when you have such a giant discrepancy in talent, similar to Arizona State, right? This is a team that you expect to run the ball quite a bit, despite what we saw in week one. But when you're up by so many points, there's not really a need to open the playbook. Again, Shapen threw the ball 20 times. As a team, Mississippi State ran the ball 35 times for 203 yards. Shapen was the leading rusher for Mississippi State in that game with just 44 yards. They also had Creed Whittemore. He had a 41-yard touchdown run. Kavion Lee had 9 carries for 40 yards. Devon Booth had 8 carries for 39 yards and a touchdown. Similar to Arizona State, you had a lot of guys touching the football in the backfield. And then you look at Eastern Kentucky, what they were able to accomplish. They had Joshua Carter. He carried the ball 19 times for 75 yards. And then Braden Latham, he carried the ball 14 times for 71 yards. So Mississippi State did allow 2 70-plus yard rushers in that game. Mind you, it was only 3.3 yards per carry that they were giving up. Through the air, Eastern Kentucky, still wasn't able to do a ton, 169 yards through the air. The Mississippi State defense just kind of had their way.
Yeah, I mean, as they should. This is not a surprising outcome.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. They're no East Carolina. Okay, top 3 defense in all of college football. I know that it's a different team, but if you go back to last season, as far as just attempts, either on the ground or in the air, 401 attempts rushing. As far as passing, 348. So slightly out of 749 total plays on offense, about 400 of those were rushing. So pretty evenly dispersed, slightly leaning over to the rushing end from last season. Obviously, this is a different team, different roster and whatnot.
Different head coach.
But just to kind of lay the land as far as what they did with some of the same players.
Yeah.
Last
And
year.
again, you brought it up, right? This is just a taste. This is just the appetizer of what we've got going for you guys all week on PHNX Sun Devils. Bees in the chat with a great here. Bottom line, they're an SEC team. Approach them with the respect they deserve.
And they will. And Bees also says, I don't imagine Kenny will allow this team to feel any level of complacency at any point this season. Bees coming in a little bit later. He definitely mentioned that. We definitely are on board with that. There will not be a week where this team is unprepared at all. And then Ralph with one last thing says, Blake Shapen left when Antonio Pierce convinced Herm to fire all the people they didn't think he could convince to amend the rules. Yeah, okay.
The rules.
Well, maybe I'm less mad at Blake.
Who's Herm? I don't recall.
Herm.
I don't.
He looks like a Venable.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
On that note, guys, do us a solid. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review. Also, head to gophnx.com today. Click the little Die Hard tab, and it's going to tell you everything that you are going to unlock when you become a PHNX diehard. It is a long list of stuff. We've got some PHNX diehards in the chat as well. You are, of course, going to get access to the diehard Discord where it is popping 24/7, especially on game day, talking about ASU football. I know it was an absolutely fun place to be. You also, yes.
Well, I also sent a ton of videos from the sidelines that is not seen anywhere else except for in our Die Hard Discord, up close and personal. If you can't go to the games, it's genuinely the next best experience. Jump in there.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to get discounts on events, on merch. You're going to get access to Die Hard only content. We release an episode of Behind the Enemy Lines every single week. You're going to get video to that audio only episode if you are a PHNX diehard. The list goes on and on. We've also got some phenomenal merch for everybody. We have, and I would say, the best merch in the Valley.
It's not even close.
So where can you get that lovely, lovely shirt, Erik?
I believe we have a new link that
We
I
do.
am not remembering off the top of my head. I think it's store.allcity.com.
There you go.
Store.allcitynetwork.com.
Look at him go.
There we go.
I got you.
Allcitynetwork.com. Not only Sun Devils, but all the other merch for all the other teams, even the worst teams, the teams that we don't mention. We know this. All of that over at store.allcitynetwork.com.
I absolutely love it. Guys, that is going to do it. Again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review. We do this every single day. Or
5
at
days
least
a week.
just about every single day. If you enjoyed the content, give the show a follow at PHNX_Sun Devils across social media. You can follow me at Anthony_Totri. You can follow this guy to my right, to your left, at Erik Ruby. That is Erik with a K. You can follow DJ Coop at K Coop Sports. Guys, go Devils. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.